all here. For those of you that are returning to Summit, we're doing a fun new thing this year where we're going to give you live updates from what is happening with the students in the innovation rooms. So this will be fun. I'm really excited to be sharing this with you today. My name is Michael Garrett. I work in our Denver, Colorado office, and this year I am the head coach's coach here at Summit. So I've been popping into every single room here at the Leadership Summit and getting a sense of what the students have been working on and their progress toward their design thinking challenge to tackle this year's theme, the impact of water on society. So a fun change that we actually made this year is paring down the design thinking framework into milestones. For those of you that were in the session earlier, understanding the student experience at Summit, this will look familiar to you. For those of you that weren't there, this is a quick look at it. And what's cool is we're going to use this almost as like a roadmap as to where the students are right now. So this morning, the innovation session that the students participated in was day 2, Ideas Grow Wild here. So you can see they were working on their first and second milestone during that session, which was to identify a compelling story tied to the Summit Challenge and developing a defined statement to better explain what that user's challenge was. So what I'm excited to do today is just share some updates from last night and this morning of what was happening in the innovation rooms. So we'll start with Friday night. So Friday night, we know that the theme of Friday night is have fun first. It's exactly what it sounds like. We really want the students to just get out of their shell and start bonding with each other. Some of the things that I was seeing in rooms, so a little bit of nerves, a little bit of where am I? Who are these other students that are in my group? Maybe they're not from my home state. Maybe they're not from the country that I came from. And so a lot of just like bonding and getting to know each other, which was great. One of the funny things that I heard, it was a really cute moment in one of the rooms, was the students were all talking and they were sharing where they had already been on tour leading up to Summit. So as many of you know, some students will go on tour prior to Summit. Some students will go on tour after Summit concludes. And one of the stories that they were sharing was they're just saying, where did you go? What was that experience like? And one kid just pokes his head up and he's like, you all have already gone on tour? We haven't gone on tour yet. I didn't know that was like a thing. Like, you already have done all of that? We haven't gone yet. And so they were starting to swap stories of like, well, yeah, we went here and experienced all these fun things. And so really the students are just starting to come out of their shell. A lot of what happened last night too was starting to understand the Summit Challenge. So they really didn't dive into designing for the Summit Challenge until this morning. So again, last night was just a lot of team building. They had dinner together and all of those really great moments to really start bonding. So this morning, we started right at 8:30. For those of you that are used to first period in your classrooms, it's a tough one. A lot of sleepy eyes, a lot of people trying to get them moving. But our coaches did a great job of playing some fun games, getting them up and moving, and a little bit more energized. So what they did start working on are these first 2 milestones. And the cool thing about this new milestone method for the students, like I said, it's kind of like a roadmap, is that they're all going to be at different places. It's more of a map, right? I could hand 2 of you a map and say, you need to get to the end. And it might take you different lengths of time. That's okay. That's what we want the students to feel empowered, that it might take my group a little bit longer to get to the end than this group, right? So this is our milestone map. If I had a little laser pointer, I'd show you are here, which is some groups are maybe between milestone 1 and 2. I would say most groups have accomplished milestone 1, in which they've decided on a story that they want to start solving for, and a story that interests them based on one of our 3 Summit pillars. Some groups have been really cooking right away. They get along great. They've been interviewing. Things are moving quickly, and they've already developed their first defined statement. Now, of course, we know this could iterate over time, and again, that's encouraged. So that's what we're seeing so far. What they're going to move into this afternoon in our Play Until It Works session is actually starting to design for the user they identified this morning. So they're going to start doing things like ideating on potential ideas to solve their problem. They're going to start thinking about how could we build a prototype that would actually align with this specific issue, and evolving and getting feedback. And again, all the students are at different places. And that's the beauty of it, right? by Sunday, they're all going to have a pitch and a prototype ready for all of us to see here on the main stage. So this afternoon, a couple quick things that I wanted to talk to you about as you get ready for your observations this afternoon. So a couple quick like logistical housekeeping things. Excuse me for pulling my notes up, but I want to make sure I get it all right. So if you want to go ahead and pull up the Summit app on your phone, I'll walk you through this really quick so you know where to go. There is scheduled called Be a Fly on the Wall. You should see that this afternoon. Go ahead and click into that. And when you click into that, that's going to show you what room to go to. So I know it's tempting. You probably want to see your students and like follow them around. It's really, really important that you go to the room that is assigned to you so we can spread things out evenly. We don't want the students to feel like overcrowded, that kind of thing. In terms of just overall expectation for this afternoon's observation, it is exactly what it sounds like, an observation. So just to prepare you, the coaches have worked really, really hard on creating a safe environment where the students can really lock into their design project and get it to a place to where they're actually ready for feedback. So this afternoon, they're not ready for outside feedback. They're not there yet, and interacting with the students could throw them off their game. So what we're asking is just to be what it says, a fly on the wall, and silently observe what's going on. So you don't just rely on me to give you live updates here on stage. You can actually see what's going on in the classrooms on your own. I think some things that I would look for when you're going into those rooms are, how are people working together? How are they using the design thinking frameworks that they're being taught in their classroom with their coaches to actually like tackle that challenge? And I think just the overall demeanor of the students. Are they getting along? Are they not getting along? Are they utilizing their leadership styles to talk about different roles? Who's gonna tackle what parts of the project? These would be all really good things to think about. So the next piece of this is moving into this afternoon, later this afternoon, which is the reflection time. So I think if you're noticing a lot of those things, those would be great things to kind of loop back into when you reflect with your groups later on. So for the, let me see here, for the feedback, or I'm sorry, reflection section, you also in the Navy part of your app be able to click into the innovation session live update. And that will give you tips on leading your reflection later on. There's a video in there, which is fantastic. That's going to give you tips on how to lead the reflection this afternoon based on the Summit experience that they're going through. So this will be a handy resource for you as you're reflecting with your own students once they come back to you later on this afternoon. So plenty of resources there. The fly on the wall, it'll tell you what room to go to. And then additionally, if you click into Innovation Session Live Update, that's going to show you all the resources you'll need to facilitate a really great reflection with you and your students. Cool. Well, that's it for now. I'll have another live update for you all tomorrow on what's going on in the innovation rooms. And just want you to know that everybody is so engaged this year. This is one of the most engaged years I have ever seen at Summit. It's fabulous. The students are jumping right in. They're making friends. They're tackling this challenge. And the energy is fabulous. I think we're going to see some really, really cool projects pitched up here on stage tomorrow afternoon. So thank you for your time, and really excited for you to go into observations later on. I'm going to pass it over to Brianna. She's going to introduce our speaker. Thanks. There you go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be back on stage. I hope you all got a bite to eat for lunch and are super excited for this part of Summit called the Thought Leader Series. Today, you're sitting in a conversation with Tiff Duong. If you don't know what that is, Tiff is going to come up on stage and show her slideshow, show a little bit about herself, and then you guys are going to have the opportunity to have a Q&A session with her and ask some questions. So, enough about all that. Let me tell you about Tiff. Tiff, who was compelled by a scuba diving trip to the Galapagos Islands, left a successful career in corporate law to campaign for Oceans and Planets, where she now works as an explorer, storyteller, and speaker. Tiff protects the environment, people, and wildlife that are most at risk in our modern world. Her interdisciplinary work is inspired by her training in renewable energy law, her passion for the ocean, and her interest in people. Tiff has decades of experience fighting for our planet and spreading awareness. Sorry. She has so much experience in fields with scientists, on the street with organizers, in the legal system with businesses and policymakers, and in classrooms with the next generation of students. Tiff holds degrees from UCLA in International Development and from the University of Pennsylvania Carey Law School in Climate, Refugee, and Environmental Law. She's also a frequent podcast guest, panelist, and inspirational speaker. When she's not campaigning for the planet, you could find Tiff scuba diving in the Florida Keys, on her yoga mat, or searching for the world's best cheesy fries. So, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to introduce such an inspiring individual whose work is dedicated to making our world a better place. So please join me in giving a huge round of applause to Tiff Duong. You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you. How's everyone feeling? Cool, good, awesome. Welcome to the big pink room with me. I'm so happy you're here. So, as everyone said, my name is Tiff, and I'm gonna talk to you about lessons from a scuba diver. How many of you here dive? Anyone? All right, I see some divers, that's great. So the question I get asked most is, how do I become you? I get asked by peers, friends, strangers. I get asked by people younger than me, people older than me. I get asked by people who have heard me speaking in person or on a podcast, or they've read something I've written. People meet me on expeditions or in the grocery store. And my response to each one is always that that's the wrong question, right? I think they see me living this big, bold life, and I'm super happy. I'm stoked about everything I'm doing. I find immense purpose in everything I'm doing. And I think they want that. I don't think they necessarily want to be me. So I always throw the question back at them. And I say, the right question is, how do you become you? The biggest, baddest, boldest, most authentic version of yourself that could be. So, who am I? We're definitely gonna start with who I'm not anymore. I earned ex-lawyer really, really hard. I say this search for cheesy fries because my guilty pleasure when I was a lawyer was to eat shredded cheese at 3 a.m. while crying into the bowl, watching Say Yes to the Dress. It's a sad picture, right? The picture's gray, the life was gray. I was a corporate lawyer at a big law firm in LA. I had a fancy condo. I was living the life, or so I thought. And I got there by following the path, or so I thought, right? I went from high school to college, to law school, to internship, to job. And I ended up feeling overworked, overwhelmed, underwhelmed, and wondering why, when I had so much success, I was so deeply unhappy. I was worried I would never find my purpose, and that gray life was what my life was going to be. So who am I really? My name is Tiffany Duong, and I'm a scuba diver. I started diving in 2012 when I was 28, still a lawyer. By 31, I had quit my job, sold my house, and started fresh without a plan. My mom hated that a lot. I did all of this because of a dive trip. Since 2012, and through hundreds and hundreds of dives, I've also added explorer and storyteller, VR developer, nonprofit founder, and a bunch of other stuff to my repertoire. If you've never heard of that as a job title, it's because I made it up. I created this life that I love based on lessons from the water, and I'm super stoked to share those with you today. So we're gonna take 5 from the sea. And these are the lessons that have led me to this life, and I hope that you can find some inspiration from this water lesson too. So first, this is about diving into the unknown, pushing your comfort zones and learning to trust. This was my first dive ever. This is Catalina Island near LA in California. Any Californians? No, oh, woo, hi. I'm also from California. This is what California looks like underwater. It's a giant kelp forest. Kelp is a seaweed that can be 30, 40, 100 feet tall. And if you can imagine, it grows and floats, and then if it's surgy, it's doing this. And then there's sun rays coming down, and then there's these orange Garibaldi fish that circle. And then you have playful sea lions that come, and they're like the puppies of the sea, and they come up and they stare at you, and they're like, hi, what are you? And then you're like, hi, what are you? It's magic. It's a different world under there. And my first dive was here, so when I dropped down, I was stunned. I was like, I am in the Discovery Channel. I am live living in this wild world, and what is this? So I was hooked. Now I'm going to tell you about the dive that changed everything. This gets into some of the lessons that we hope our students are going to learn at Summit, right? Getting into things that are uncomfortable. This was the dive in the Galapagos that Brianna was telling you about. It's a drift dive. Has anyone done a drift dive? Does anyone know what a drift dive is? Basically, you drift on a dive. If you've seen Finding Nemo, it's when the sea turtles are like, whoa, dude, amazing. You're cruising around, right? Got the image? That's a drift dive. So I was the sea turtle, and I was supposed to drift along and trust wherever the current would take me, trust that the boat captain that was watching our bubbles would find us somewhere in the ocean, and just see whatever the ocean wanted me to see. I was a super new diver when I did this dive, and I was like, there is no chance I'm gonna trust all that. So instead of drifting with the group, I held onto a rock, and I was hugging it at the bottom of the ocean while the group was drifting away. And then I was like, Tiff, this is bad. This is a bad decision. The group is far, and you're hugging a rock in a foreign country, and you could die alone. So then I was like, am I gonna lean into the discomfort or hug a rock? So I didn't even push off with a lot of gusto. I just opened my hands and let the water move me. And when I had booked this trip, I thought I was just checking something off my bucket list, right? I was deep in the law work. I was like, oh yeah, this is a cool place, da-da-da. When this happened and when I had to physically choose to let go to live, it clicked something in my brain. It made me realize that I had to let go of a lot of the parts of me and the pillars within my life as a corporate lawyer that I thought were my rocks, but that were holding me down. So I came back from that trip, and a month later, I quit my job, I sold my house, and I started trying to figure it out, how I could redirect towards the water. Since then, I have tried almost everything, if it sounds cool, weird, or fun, as long as it has to do with the sea. That is not me in that picture, as you can hopefully tell, but I did have that job. That is an underwater pizza delivery man. It is a real job that I had. And when I wasn't on the clock, there was a freediving mermaid that took my place. This is an underwater hotel that you have to scuba to get into. So all of the food, luggage, and all that has to be dove down by someone like me. And through this period, which ended up being about 3 years, I tried a bunch of stuff. I failed at a bunch of stuff, tried more, redirected, let myself flow and grow, right? Lots of discomfort, lots of hard conversations, lots of doubts. But I knew I couldn't go back to a place that I had just left. And what it really taught me, what those dives taught me, was that I can't control my way to success. I can't control my way into a good life or into a planet I can save, right? I have to ride the currents, adapt to the weather, dive into the unknown, and see where it takes me. And yeah, of course, it is scary. Remember clinging to a rock? I was terrified. And being outside your comfort zone is scary. It's difficult. But at the edge, that's where life happens, right? That's where innovation happens. That's where solutions happen. That's why you guys are here. That's why you brought your students here. And so I had to learn, and hopefully we all will learn together, how to be scared and have doubts and do it anyways, right? Face the unknown and say, no risk, no story. And I'm a storyteller, so I love a good story. Okay, number 2, believe in magic. Did you guys take your leadership quizzes? Adults, come on, guys. Oh, sorry, my bad. Well, I took mine, and I am a feeler very thoroughly, like way. So this one's my favorite. This lesson is about connecting with our planet and each other and ourselves, and staying open and curious to what the natural world has to teach us. This is Norway, 2022. That's me about to hop in the water, and look what's right under us. Can you see? Those are wild orcas. I could have touched that one with my fin. There was a pod of at least 11. They don't all show up because the water was black emerald. And this is my friend Ash, and you can't hear her, but she is screaming her head off. She is like, oh my God, that was the best thing ever. I can't believe it. And everyone is just elated, right? That's magic. That's awe and wonder. And it's the joy of feeling small in a place that's immense and timeless and beautiful. These are the Northern Lights, seen from our ship, same trip, right? When we get face to face with amazing things like this on our planet, it helps us recognize that we're just a tiny part, and that's so cool. I think our cultures have taught us that it matters to be important and to be an individual and all that, but when you get to remember you are the same stuff as orcas and plankton and water and stars, it's awesome. That magic was so alluring that myself and some teammates from that same trip decided to make a VR team. You heard from Lou at the big session, and you might go visit my friends Lou and Aya in one of the workshops. We go on expeditions, we see the things, feel the things, learn the things, and then we bottle them up into a VR video game. And the reason is so that people can feel the same things and see the same things through a headset that we did without having to go there. That solves a lot of access issues, right? These trips are expensive, these places are far to get to, and not everyone wants to jump in the water with orcas, right? My mom, the same one that thought I was crazy, thinks I'm more crazy now. And I just want to show you, like, this is a sneak peek from our game, how real you can make it, right? The top images are reality. Those are from my iPhone. The bottom are snapshots from our game. We got to choose the parts of that experience that really spoke to us and create that so that you or anyone else trying out our game could do it too. We also just went to Antarctica. And this slide is mostly here because I felt deep in love with penguins when I was there. They are so derpy, please watch, so derpy, and they're amazing. So they will appear in the Antarctica game, I promise, because I will die on that hill. But this is just part of the magic, right? Magic can be derpy, magic can be fun, magic can make you feel things. So at Summit and in life, I urge you to urge yourself and your students to use awe and wonder and magic to brainstorm how to solve big problems and think about how you can connect yourself and others to what really matters. Okay, number 3, use a different lens. Scuba diving, pun, this is probably the worst one, right? You need a mask to see, very clear. In diving, lots of times your mask can get foggy, so you need to clear it. Put water, put spit, put some spray. You can't see, clear your mask. If you still can't see, maybe you need a different mask, right? New eyes, new solutions. Use that same metaphor to clear your mind, right? If you don't see a solution in front of you, or you don't know the next step to take, maybe you need some time to clear your mind, flip your mindset. I want to tell you the story of when I was trying to be a rescue diver. I am 5'3", and in rescue dive class, that you have to find a missing human somewhere in the ocean, they don't tell you where, and lift up their unconscious body, flip them over, do CPR while taking off your gear and theirs, drag them to the shore, and hoist them up. And for funsies, they paired me with a guy that was 6'8", and over 100 pounds more than me. So I was, again, terrified. And this is where I decided to flip my mindset. And instead of being like, oh my God, I'm gonna fail, he's actually gonna die because I'm never gonna find him, I had to tell myself, today's a great day to become a rescue diver. And that's kind of the trick that I use whenever there's a big dive adventure or nature adventure that is a little bit terrifying, but a lot exciting. Instead of being like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I'm like, nervous energy and excited energy are cousins, so I'm gonna flip. So then I just said, today's a great day to become a rescue diver. And I still don't know how, but I did find that man, dragged his body, did the CPR. He's alive, he's happy. I'm happy I became a rescue diver. So flip your mindset. And nature, and especially underwater, is a brilliant way to find ways to flip your mindset and clear those mental lenses. This is not me, this is Aya. She's free diving, not scuba diving. She's super badass. I picked this video because in free diving, you really are, it's just you and water, right? You drop down and it's just endless freedom. It's her, fish, oceans. It's total immersion, right? Physically, but that carries through to the mental and the spiritual. Why? What's missing underwater? Cell phones, computers, email, bosses, kids, parents, right? Being disconnected allows you to just exist, take in sensory info. For me, it's where my creativity and problem solving thrive. When I dive, it's actually when I do my best writing. So I'll be diving and then I'll see like a headline flash like in this mental space. And then I'll be like, oh my God, I need to write that article. And the whole paragraph will come in my head. And then it's my challenge to remember it all until I can get to the surface and write it down. You can also apply this flip of a lens to the blue economy, to an industry, right? This is the economic lens of this. So Inversa is a company I've worked with that takes lionfish leather, which is the fish on that spear, and turns it into shoes or bags or other Italian leather goods. Lionfish are invasive in the Caribbean. They basically have no predators because they got brought there by the pet trade, and they can devour all the tiny fish and invertebrates on a coral head in days, right? They're like a Hoover, and they're just like, I'm so hungry and no one can eat me, and they wipe out the sea. So blue economy lens of this problem, they have divers go down and hunt the lionfish. Then they hire chefs to turn them into fish tacos, ceviche, you name it. It's delicious. And then they sell the leather to this company Inversa that turns it into bags. So they took what was an environmental problem, they put a new lens on it, an economic lens, and they turned it into a solution. All right, number 4. There are no rules. This should sound familiar. It's one of the summit pillars, right? Underwater, there's no straight lines, there's no paths to follow. You are trailblazing wherever you go, right? There's not a street in the sea. And you get to choose where you go. You also have that freedom of body and mind. I applied this choose your own adventure style of exploration as I was building my life. So I wanted to keep chasing joy, having adventures, and saving the seas that saved me. And like I said before, it seemed like the job I wanted didn't really exist, to dive and to tell stories that matter, stories that move people. So I made it up. I just started telling people, I'm a dive journalist. And they were like, oh, cool, what's that? And I said, I dive and I tell stories. And they were like, great. And I said, if you have a story, I'll do it, especially if you want to pay me. And then people started paying me. And then I got hired by magazines to be their dive journalist. It's a life that I created. And this whole process took years and was hard, but it taught me that life comes from me, not at me, right? It's mine to create. And this is one of my favorite cartoons. It's by Marie Andrew. And I used to have this taped over my computer in my sad law office to try to remind myself that like there might be a chance out next to the bowl of shredded cheese. So underwater, there's no set paths, there's no rules. Apply that to life. There's no one right path. There's no rules, right? So for these students, there's no one college they have to go to. For you guys, there's no one job you have to get. There's no outfit you need to wear, music you need to listen to, thing you need to know, right? We're all just doing it. We're all winging it. And the less that we can be concerned with how we look and more with how our life feels to us, the closer you get to living an authentic life. In coral restoration, we use this same thought. So this is my friend Alyssa. She's catching a staghorn coral. And then my friend Stephanie hangs it on a tree. We do this because these corals grow from a finger size to a grapefruit in 6 to 9 months because we can lower and raise these trees based on water temperature, clarity, all that. It's way faster than growing on the seafloor in nature. And so coral scientists are doing this and then planting those back on degraded reefs. They don't know if it's gonna work, right? This quote is from the superintendent of the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, where I live and dive. We're building the plane while we fly it. We are not following the rules, we're making them. Because the alternative for coral nerds, which are most of my friends in the Keys, is to watch all the coral die, right? Watch this thing that they love and dedicate their life to disappear. So they're breaking the rules. If what you want doesn't exist, create it, right? That is Summit, that's prototyping, that's innovating. And if you think about the problems you need to solve, forget all the rules, make up your own, right? Apply that to your life. Push your limits and define what happiness means to you, what success means to you, what 5-year-old and 85-year-olds you want to remember. All right, last one. Engage with something bigger than you. So the water broke my idea of what's possible for myself and for my career and for my legacy on this planet. It was my spark and my inflection point. And it led me to this stage in front of you. It led me to this big, beautiful life that I am so humbled to call mine. So maybe Summit will break some of your students. Maybe it'll break some of you. Or maybe it'll be on your travels later. Who knows, right? But seek out the things that help you change what you think's possible, what is within your realm. And I just want to remind us that every choice that we make connects us to a greater whole and can leave us and this big blue planet better than we found it. My hope is that each one of you finds something, a community, an idea, a place that you identify with and that you want to save, that you want to protect, that you want to give life to. Because for me, this is what gives life purpose. So even if you don't like the water, and it's okay if you don't, and even if you haven't found your version of water yet, remember these 5 rules from the sea, right? Take note, make sure you keep playing, stay outside the lines, be uncomfortable, listen to all these rules, apply them to your life, and trust that if you do, your own version of water, your own version of diving will emerge. To end, I'm going to borrow this quote from a very beloved water advocate. His name was Jay Nichols. He recently passed away. His life legacy was to share the healing and connecting power of water. He called it Blue Mind. And for me, I know that the water has certainly healed me and given me all these chances to share about it to people like you. I'm very proud of the life I've created, and it gives me so much inspiration to think that this could be a moment in time that these students might remember and start deflecting, thinking differently, choosing differently. Jay ended most of his talks and books with this line, "I wish you water." And with it, he used to hold the entire universe of well-intentions and good thoughts and hopes. So, my dear friends, thank you so much for listening, and I wish you water. Any questions? Yeah? How did I get that opportunity? The very first one, I got certified. When I was a lawyer, I used to feel really numb, so I did a lot of very adrenaline-themed things on the weekends. So I used to be like, skydive one weekend, bungee jump, and scuba diving was one of the things that I picked to try to feel anything. Awesome. Well, if you have other questions, I am around, and feel free to reach me, and thank you for listening.
Great. Oh. Hello. There we go.